I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, a new version of a bill to muffle Muslim calls to prayer is causing major controversy. Hamas is set to release a shocking new charter, and get ready to celebrate because Israel is heading to the next round of the World Baseball Classic. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. Anyone who's ever lived in the Middle East knows what it's like to be awakened at dawn by the Muslim call to prayer being broadcast over loudspeakers from local mosques. Here in Israel, for some, the sound is beautiful, but for others, it's time to turn down the volume. A new two-part bill to muffle the amplified prayers has just won preliminary approval during a very heated debate in the Knesset. One of the versions would ban the summons to worship through loudspeakers between 11 at night and 7 in the morning, which would effectively mute one of the 5 daily Muslim broadcasts. The other bars the calls in residential areas at all hours and carries a $2,700 fine for violations. Supporters of the bill say it's not anti-Muslim and is only aimed at improving the quality of life of people living near mosques who are forced to hear the morning calls before 5 a.m. every day.
זה מה שבא החוק לומר, חוק חברתי שבא להגן על שנתם של האזרחים בלי לפגוע חס וחלילה באמונתם של אדם זה או אדם אחר, לא מידת האסלאם, לא מידת היהדות ולא בכל אמונה אחרת באלוהים. האמונה הזאת היא משותפת לנו. אללהו אכבר, אלוקים הוא גדול.
But Arab legislators are denouncing the measure as discriminatory. Several Arab Knesset members are claiming the bill unfairly impinges on the religious freedom of Israel's Muslim minority, which makes up almost 20% of the population.
מסתיים זמנך. נא להוריד אותו. נא להוריד אותו. להוריד אותו מעל הדוכן.
Even some of Israel's left-wing parties are against the legislation, which is being sponsored by their rivals on the right.
קואליציה קטנה, עלובה, גזענית, רדודה, נכנעת לכמה קיצוניים עלובים, וכולכם מתייצבים, ואתם עושים תחרות מי יצהיר יותר נאמנות לשנאת ערבים. הקואליציה הזאת השתגעה, אתם לא נורמליים, זה אחד הימים פשוט הכי מחפירים שאני זוכרת בכנסת ישראל. The neighboring state of Jordan, which runs the Waqf group that manages Islamic holy sites in Israel, is also opposing the legislation. Amman says it violates human rights as well as its peace treaty with Jerusalem. But Israel insists it's committed to protecting the religious rights of all faiths and that the government battles discrimination against its Arab citizens. The proposal's backers point out that since it only applies to residential areas, the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, Islam's third holiest site, would be exempt from the restrictions. Now the disputed legislation will go to committee for further discussion before any of the 3 votes necessary to become law are taken in what is likely to be a very lengthy process. Now, get this, Arab media sources are saying that Hamas is about to release a rather unexpected new version of its charter. The document will reportedly outline Palestine according to the 1967 boundary lines, although no big surprise here, it will continue to deny the Jewish state's right to exist. The amended charter is being drawn up in Qatar by the terror group's leaders ahead of its release next month. If true, their declaration of a state alongside the pre-6-day war lines marks a major shift in policy. Since being founded in late 1980s, the radical Islamists have insisted on reclaiming all of historic Palestine. Now the group may even sever ties to the Muslim Brotherhood terror group. This is all in an apparent bid to foster new Arab regional partners like Egypt. Hamas is nevertheless expected to perpetuate its commitment to Israel's destruction that has always been one of the group's main goals. Since seizing control of Gaza in 2007, the terrorists have murdered hundreds of Israelis in 3 major conflicts, suicide bombings, and thousands of missile attacks. And despite denials to the contrary, the group is extremely anti-Semitic. Its current charter contains shocking propaganda against the Jewish people, including several Nazi ideologies and radical Islamist rhetoric.
Efforts to revive the stagnant Israeli-Palestinian peace process remain a hot-button issue across the world. So it's no wonder that this was clearly the focus of talks when Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hosted the United Kingdom's Foreign Minister Boris Johnson in Jerusalem.
And all our government are, as you know, firm, strong supporters, rock-like supporters of Israel. And what we want is to see an Israel that is at peace with its neighbors. And I should remind you that the policy of our government is for a two-state solution, which is what we want to achieve and hope to help to bring about in a modest and humble way.
It's evident that we agree on most things, but not on all things. And one of the things, I think, the source of, when you analyze a problem, go to its roots, and the reason we haven't had peace here for 100 years is not the settlements, but the persistent refusal to recognize a nation state for the Jewish people in any boundary. I think if you want to solve a problem, go to the core of the problem, and that is something I look forward to discussing with you further.
And we want to build on our trading partnership with you. We are the biggest European trading partner with Israel. I think I'm right in saying that we have the largest, fastest growing Aston Martin dealership anywhere in the world here in Israel. And we've done some fantastic export deals with you in the last few months. But you are also huge contributors to the UK economy. So I'm very pleased that one of the things that you agreed with our Prime Minister, Theresa May, was to set up a working group so that we could go forward together towards a new free trade agreement.
Ahead of his meeting with the Israeli premier, Johnson also traveled to Ramallah for meetings with Palestinian officials. The peace process once again took center stage.
We have had a very cordial, very open, very frank discussion. We have went through a variety of issues, not only about our expectation from the new administration in Washington and how to engage positively with that and how to take advantage of what they will offer in terms of moving forward in the peace process.
Well, as I say, I think it would be a mistake for us in the UK to try and impose ourselves like some Deus ex machina into this negotiation. We have leaders, partners on both sides who I think it would be accepted need to come together, and they will have our full support. That's the priority. Thank you.
During his trip to the West Bank city, the top British diplomat also met with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, but neither gave statements to the press. While this is Johnson's first working visit to the region in his current role, he's been here before. He came to the country in 2015 while serving as the mayor of London and also attended the funeral of former Israeli President Shimon Peres this past September. All right, turning to South America, Argentina is posed to commemorate the 25th anniversary of a terror attack against the Israeli embassy in Buenos Aires. But according to an Israeli Channel 2 news report, no Israeli ministers have expressed a willingness to attend so far. ILTV's Joy Gavillon joins me with more on the story. Joy, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, as an Argentine Jew, how does this feel for you?
Well, I grew up studying at a Jewish school and attending protests about this bombing every single year. And for many Jewish people like me, young people, the event was a reminder that we stand out in Argentinian community and that this has to be reminded and not forgotten.
All right, well, let's check out your report.
Let's check it out. On March 17, 1992, a suicide bomber blew himself up, killing 29 and injuring hundreds of others from the Israeli embassy in Buenos Aires. Until today, the incident remains the deadliest attack on an Israeli diplomatic mission in Argentina, a group linked to both the Lebanese terror group Hezbollah and the Iranian government has taken responsibility for the attack. On Monday, the Israeli Prime Minister commemorated the terror attack and reminded the world that Iran is still one of Israel's main security concerns. Yet, Israel has failed to provide an official cabinet representative for the anniversary of the incident.
Now, today we have a real treat in the studio. Rabbi Marvin Hier is a two-time Academy Award winner, the founder of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, and a major advocate for human rights and tolerance around the world. Rabbi Hier even said a prayer at U.S. President Donald Trump's inauguration, and today he joins us here in the studio. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So, Rabbi, let's start with some of the hard issues, all right? We've seen a frightening increase in anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic acts, not only in the United States, but across the world. What do you attribute this to?
Well, first of all, this spate is frightening. You know, it's geographically. I was a rabbi in Vancouver, and today the Jewish Community Center in Vancouver had to be evacuated because of a bomb threat. And this is happening throughout everywhere in the United States and in other countries. It's very alarming. It just shows you that there's a climate in the air. See, there were many who said, well, this had to do with an election in the United States that elected President Trump. And now we see that it has no geographic boundaries. It goes to other countries as well. It's not just the United States that's being targeted. I think that the reason is that the bigots and anti-Semites that are out there perceive this to be a climate in where they're frightened that a new administration may be friendly to Israel. And that might be attracting anti-Semites around the world to react. You know, because otherwise, look, every Jewish institution in the United States for decades, the Simon Wiesenthal Center, Jewish Community Centers, Federation buildings, we all have protection. Once we used to have guards without guns. Years ago, we changed to guards with guns. So there was always a threat. But this spate continuing over 3 or 4 months with telephone calls being made and now crossing borders suggests to me that these haters and bigots perceive that there may be some good news installed for Israel and are trying to retaliate.
Now, you know, you chose to give a prayer at the inauguration of U.S. President Donald Trump when there were so many who refused to do so. And many people from the American Jewish community themselves were condemning the new leader. Why did you choose to do that in the face of so much backlash?
First of all, I think it would be preposterous for somebody to say that they're going to turn down a request to say a prayer at an inauguration. And let me tell you why. How many countries are there in the world where Jews can walk safely, wear yarmulkes? If you're a chassid, you can wear a shtreimel. How many countries can we tick off? Europe? No longer. No more in Paris. You can't really do that. The chief rabbi in Paris has recommended that people should take a low profile, take your kippah and put it in your pocket if you're going through neighborhoods. The United States has been the greatest country in the diaspora to Jews. We have Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, we have yeshivas, secular Jews, we have Hasidic Jews in Williamsburg and in Borough Park and Flatbush who feel at home, can wear their kapotas without any fears. So when you were invited to say a prayer, they didn't ask me to make a political speech. They asked me to say a prayer. When you're invited to say a prayer for a country that has been so great to Jews, it would be an insult. And in my opinion, it would create doubts in the part of non-Jews who would say, can you imagine the Jews? Look how they live here freely. There's a request that a rabbi should say a prayer, and he turns it down. That's why I accept it.
I can understand that. Now, you know, speaking of the American Jewish community and kind of the reactions to Donald Trump as the new U.S. president, there has been a lot of negative backlash towards Trump's fresh travel ban against 6 Muslim-majority countries. What is your take on that, and how do you think the Jewish community should be reacting to that travel ban?
First of all, we oppose that. The original ban that was put out, the Simon Wiesenthal Center spoke against it. We don't like to see a ban against where even people with green cards were caught and could not re-enter the country. Now they've reworked the ban. It's a different kind of a ban. It may pass, the Supreme Court would have to eventually rule But Jews are always going to be sensitive to the immigrants. My parents were immigrants, and they were welcomed in this country. They came with practically nothing. So I'm never going to be an advocate to keep immigrants out. I think that would be, for me, very difficult to do when I consider the fact that my parents were immigrants, and thank God they were allowed into this country.
Absolutely. Speaking of tolerance, I understand that you are actually building a special new museum in Jerusalem. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. We built the Museum of Tolerance Los Angeles in 1993. And in February 1993, a month after we opened, Teddy Kollek visited the Museum of Tolerance unannounced. And he was the mayor of Jerusalem, and he left me a message to call him at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. And I called him, and he said, Rabbi Hier, I want you to come to Jerusalem as soon as possible. I said, why is that? I want you to build a Museum of Tolerance in Jerusalem. I said, Mr. Mayor, I have no intention of doing that. I said, we've spent every last cent, $55 million. And we couldn't build a Museum of Tolerance in Jerusalem. He said, I didn't tell you to build. I told you to come and get the land. Building is another thing. You have time to build, but it's important to get the land. So I came there. He took me around for 2 days in a broken car, and he couldn't find a place that he liked. So he said to me, you'll have to come back in 6 months. He lost the election to Ehud Olmert. And he still called me, said, you have to come back again. I came back, he walked into Ehud Olmert's office, who was then mayor, and he said, Ehud, give this man a piece of land, not in the hills, but betoch ha'ir, in the middle of the city somewhere. Because one day, Israel is going to want to have the kind of institution that they've created in Los Angeles, a Museum of Tolerance.
Well, I know we cannot wait until the grand opening. Rabbi, thank you so much for coming in, and we hope to have you back again soon.
It'd be my pleasure.
The Jews of Poland have just held a somber ceremony commemorating the 1968 campaign of Polish authorities expelling thousands of Jews who survived the Holocaust. ILTV's Aaron Porras has more on the story. Aaron.
Thank you, Natasha. Yeah, you know, you would think that after such a relatively short time following the Holocaust, the European governments may have learned their lesson. That's just conventional wisdom. But anyway, so let's check out my report for more.
The expulsion was framed as a response to the 1967 Six-Day War and fueled by anti-Semitism. According to historians, at one point the Interior Ministry created a detailed index of all the Polish Jews, regardless of religious affiliation or activity, and then removed them from all public positions, sometimes brutally. The Shalom Foundation, which for several years has organized events on the expulsion anniversary, is working towards restoring and repairing the relationship between Poland and her lost Jewish culture. Former Polish President Kaczynski at one point even promised to restore citizenship to the expelled Polish Jewry. Golda Tencer, director of the Jewish Theater in Warsaw, which co-organized the ceremony with the Shalom Foundation, said, quote, "Our parents, after the experiences of war, a dozen years later experienced a second exodus. They threw us away, but no one could break up our friendship," end quote.
All right, now speaking of technology, here's some breaking news for everybody. One Israeli company has just made history by setting a new Guinness World Record. The Mobileye vision technology firm specializes in software for advanced driver assist systems and has just created the new golden standard for the greatest number of participants to ever simultaneously use virtual reality displays. The victory came in Vancouver, Canada during Mobileye's surprise presentation, simulating the experience of riding in a driverless car. 1,867 lucky business leaders from 130 countries participated in the AR activity, smashing the previous record. It all happened at the 2017 EDGE conference of the Young Presidents Organization. Mobileye is a member of the group which promotes the sharing of ideas and pursuit of lifelong learning. The prestigious Israeli company has already scored contracts with 25 leading international automakers. And one of its most notable projects is the development of the world's first fully autonomous vehicle by 2021 in partnership with Intel and BMW. Excitement is out of the ballpark in Seoul, South Korea today, where Israel's national baseball team just scored an impressive 4-2 victory over the Netherlands at the World Baseball Classic. The blue and white is really swinging its way to the top of the 16-country competition. Today's triumph is especially remarkable when you remember this is the first time Israel's ever appeared at the WBO. Now, the Jewish national squad has a sterling 3-0 record after early defeats of the hometown favorite South Korea, 2-1, and the clobbering of the Chinese Taipei with a score of 15-7. Today's ball game was a nail-biter for some because the Netherlands also had the same 2-0 status in the group stage going in, and even though the Dutch were initially considered an underdog before coming up to bat, the team still ranks far above the Jewish state. Israel is being described as the tournament's unexpected darling for its amazing success. The team's now advancing to the second round in Tokyo, where it'll be taking on the Japanese national team this Sunday. We're all going to have to be patient to see who's the ultimate champion, though, because it's only after this next phase that the 4 semifinalists will determine the championship round to see who takes home the 2017 trophy for the Classic, which is being held in Los Angeles on March 20th to the 21st. Joining me now via phone call all the way from South Korea is General Manager of the Israeli baseball team, Peter Kurtz, to give us the inside scoop on how the Israeli baseball team is feeling after this incredible winning streak. Hi, Peter. It's amazing that the Israeli team beat 3 different teams from 3 different countries all within a week.
Thank you very much. I just want to correct you. It's the first time Israel has beat 3 countries in a week since 1967, the Six-Day War.
So what's next? I understand that you guys are going to be headed to Japan, correct?
It's incredibly enthusiastic here. I was just at a bar with 2 of the players, and we were just talking about how amazing it was, not in any of our expectations. I personally felt that if we got to 1st or 2nd place, it would be great. It would be an incredible achievement. I never thought that I would be in 1st place, 3-0, defeating teams who were number 3, number 4, and number 9 in the world.
Amazing, amazing. So tell us about what it's going to be like in Japan.
Yes, we are flying tomorrow afternoon to Tokyo, to Japan, to face there the 1st and 2nd place teams that were in the Japanese Bayat, the Japanese division. Right now, that's going to be Japan, who is in 1st place, and or Cuba or Australia, who were in 2nd place. So us and Australia, Holland, and Japan, and I think Cuba will be the 4 teams who will be vying next week for the next ticket for the top 2 teams to Los Angeles in the finals.
All right, well, unfortunately, I won't be able to make it to Japan myself, but I understand that you guys have a very cool mascot traveling with you. Am I right?
Of course. We have a chartered plane, and he'll be having a seat in business class. The mensch on the bench has developed into more than just the mensch on the bench, because now he has a talus, and he's a bottle of Manischewitz wine, and there's also Buba, his wife, who's next to him, and it's taken on an image of his own. I understand that in Japan, they look at mascots in a very appreciative way. Every company, the Israeli embassy was just telling me that they have their own mascot, so a lot of Japanese journalists are interested in our mensch on the bench.
Well, we're all rooting for you from here. Congratulations again.
Thank you very much, and watch our games next week.
The Hebrew word of the day is brought to you by the University of Haifa, Hebrew Summer Ulpan, open to everyone.
The Jewish holiday of Purim is right around the corner, and Israelis are getting ready to celebrate with costumes and drinks. So today's word is shikol, which means drunk or inebriated. I know, Purim is supposed to be all about dressing up and celebrating how Queen Esther's uncle Mordechai saved the Jews from the evil Haman. But with crazy costumes often comes a crazy time, and sometimes people who are old enough are encouraged to drink to the point where they can't even tell the difference between Mordechai and Haman. Now, we're not saying getting shikol is a good thing, but Tel Aviv is known as one of the world's party capitals, and Purim is one of the biggest parties of the year. Even in the holy city of Jerusalem, you can find Jews celebrating their survival from Haman in the ancient Persian city of Shushan. So if you make it to the Holy Land in time for the exciting festivities, just make sure to lay off too many drinks and stick to getting shikol from happiness. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. The weekend is here and it comes with a cool front as the skies are expected to be partly cloudy or even rainy, and temperatures are set to drop. The low tonight will be about 56 or 13 degrees Celsius, and the weekend's highs will float around 70 or 21 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.69 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. Thanks for watching and see you next time.